I started to trim Lucky about a week ago and got his front feet done, and when I was about to start on his back, he stepped sideways and stepped on a corgi dog which has to be raced off to the vet. So I came back to finish him off today. I'd taken off about probably 30 mil off his heels and around the wall of his hoof, but as you can see he's in a pretty bad way.
The Rural Report, here on 999 ABC Broken Hill.
Have a horse, you can either put shoes on it or you can let it go barefoot, and we're going to hear a little bit about one local horseman has recently done a course looking at the barefoot option. So what it's all about, how it works, what he's learnt. Quite interesting.
Something you never really think about, is it?
Well, it isn't. Yeah, I suppose if you're a horse owner, you do, but for us, definitely not. So
non-horse owners?
Non-horse owners, yes. We're a breed unto ourselves.
We are.
Well, if you're a horse owner, you can choose for your horse to wear shoes or go barefoot. Local horseman Richard Woolley has recently returned from an intensive 2-week course in Tasmania looking at the barefoot option. Now, I stopped by his place in Broken Hill where he showed me how he'd been taught to care for the hooves.
Take this down just a couple of millimetres above the sole and quarter. Just check to see the state of the hoof, and I know my guys up here compared to the horses down in Tasmania, completely different. They're like concrete up here and they're like trees down there, so you've got to be very careful with a knife or a rasp down there. A bit too hard and you take too much off, and it takes too long to grow back, so you can injure them if you go too quick at it. But what I was doing out there was I just on one hoof out there, and then Jerry, he was just a little bit long in the heels, and his quarters had grown a fair way, but he had a nice toe callus and still had a nice roll on a dorsal wall of his hoof. And that's bad. I've been hanging around with some English people, as you could tell by that. His hoof, I mean. So it was only, I suppose, 10 minutes, and just rasp everything in accordance with his particular foot, because I don't think there's any set angles or that sort of thing that can be applied to all hooves. Each hoof on the horse is different and each horse is different, so you've just got to play it as it comes.
Tell me a little bit about why you decided along your sort of career with horses to go barefoot.
Going barefoot came about because when I originally got into horses in Broken Hill, there were 2 Clydesdales, and there were half a dozen farriers around town, I was told, so I thought I wouldn't have any trouble getting them shod. And with a phone call to one or another, when they found out that they were Clydesdales, a few of them either ended up with bad backs or couldn't afford to get injured, so that sort of told me something. I thought I might have a bit of a problem here. But a chap by the name of Ricky Townsend, and he's pretty well known around the area, he was out there straight away and fixed them up for me. But Rick's a little bit older than me, probably a bit fitter. I better say that, he'll belt me with his rasp. But it got to the point where the big fella I had, the gelding, we were going down the road one day, and Clydesdale's a cow, what they call cow hocked, and he had this habit of one of his back legs banging up against the coronary band on the other, and the shoes at that stage weighed 1 kilo each. And this particular day, he kicked his other foot out from underneath him and he started to bleed from the coronary band, so I unhitched the horses and walked them home, and I took the shoes off that day, and I've never had a shoe on a horse since. And
there's still, I guess, a range of opinions on whether horses should have shoes or they shouldn't, or just different ideas. I understand that's still the case?
That's still the case, and I guess you've got to, as they say, there's horses for courses, but you've got to look at the reason, I guess, why people still run their horses with shoes and white people are going barefoot. And I think a lot of the times that white people run with shoes is if they're in a racing industry, for instance, a thoroughbred industry or the harness industry, I believe it's compulsory to wear shoes, so you've got no option. Although they're working on the thoroughbred industry at the moment to see if they can change that. At one stage they were just wearing tips. They were running barefoot and just putting about a 3-inch tip on the hoof for the horse to run. And the other thing is that I guess it's just tradition that people get a horse and think, oh, I better get some shoes on it. And I guess that's when I got my first horse, that was the first thing I thought, oh, I got a horse, now I'm going to have to get some shoes on it. But when you understand the mechanism of the hoof, appreciate how it works, in my particular case, and would never ever put a lump of steel on a horse's hoof again. A Mustang roll. Mm-hmm. And that takes the peripheral loading off the hoof.
You've recently attended a course in Tasmania, as you touched on before, learning about this technique and the skills that you need to do this. Can you tell me a little bit about what you learnt, first of all?
What I learnt was, I guess, a lot of things I should have learnt when I was a young fella, being down there with only 3 blokes and 15 women and being locked away in the sticks with them for 2 weeks. And a few things that made the hair stand up on the back of my neck, I guess, even at my age. But apart from that, why I went down there was I've been trimming my horses myself for about 4 years, and I got to the point where I didn't really think I could do much more, and I thought there was more I could do, but I wasn't going to do it unless I discovered a bit more about it. And this course offered the perfect opportunity. I think while we were down there, we cut up and trimmed over 100 cadaver hooves. We also did a rehabilitation trim on a Shetland pony that had feet probably about 10 inches too long. We also then went and trimmed another 25 Shetlands in a paddock. We did 2 Arab studs. We trimmed the horses there, and then on the final day we trimmed mares at what I call a battery hen type thoroughbred stud, which I wasn't impressed with that much.
As you mentioned there, I understand a lot of it was about, yes, the anatomy and learning the insides and the outsides. How important is that to know to do what you do?
Well, I guess that was the main important thing to me, is I wanted to pull that dead hoof apart, not a live one, just to see what made it tick basically, and it's absolutely amazing piece of anatomy. It works as a shock absorber and a spring, and believe it or not, they say a horse has got 5 hearts. Well, if a horse is walking and putting each foot or putting the foot down once a second, that's pumping about 60 litres of blood a minute through its body, so it's a very big part of the circulatory system of a horse. If you put a shoe on that restricts the expansion and contraction of the hoof. If the frog's off the ground, well, you're basically not pumping any blood through the system.
How important is the health of that foot or hoof to the overall horse's well-being?
Well, like I said, the amount of blood that circulates through the body and helps with the circulation there is extremely important, but wasn't all based on just the hoof. We had a horse chiropractor down there, and as he said, when he's called out to look at a horse that's got something wrong with it, he starts at the feet, and they say a horse without feet, you haven't got a horse.
You gonna let me pick this one up?
Yes, it's local horseman Richard Woolley speaking there. He's recently been in Tasmania looking at, going barefoot with your horses, and he was just sharing some of his, what he's learnt and some of the techniques there too. You could hear the file going or the rasp in the background there. Yeah.
A real interesting insight. Was he saying there was 15 women and only a couple of blokes doing the course?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
That's an interesting thing in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, it does sound like it. So, yeah. But I was looking, actually, there's a bit of a feature up online about the course and on ABC Rural's website, and yeah, from all over the place as well, the people from Australia and around the world, and yeah, it sounded like they attracted quite a few different people.
Amy, you find these stories anywhere, don't you, really? You really do. And if you've got an interesting story out there regarding anything of a rural nature, well, Amy, they should give you a call.
They should indeed. 8082 4000 is our number here at the ABC, so if you ever want to give me a call or just have a chat, just ring in.
It's not hard, is it really? Amy, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll hear more tomorrow morning. Amy will return. It's 9 minutes to 7.
You got no hoofs, you got no... I should show some right to bed. Just look here, big fella. As long as we get on all right, we'll be cool. Come on. That's a boy. keep going. So I hope he's not going to be sore, but he... I'll explain how I trim when I'm finished. He's a good boy. For Clydesdale, he's bloody good. Particularly with feet like that.
He's a good old man, isn't he? He's a special man. Especially considering how he was treated and the fact that he's still willing to trust a human.
Oh, I'm not human, see. Well, some people say I'm not. Hey, do you just want to walk him around and we'll see if he is lame. And I'll see I've got evidence on camera then, see. You go for a walk for me, please. Good man. Walk on. When we did his front foot the other week, I took about that much off. And because he was so used to know, he was walking like he had his feet in a bucket, wasn't he? She had no break over. And she walked him around like that and he nearly went ass up. Because he stood on his toes, he had break over and he nearly knuckled over, didn't he? I think that was pretty good. I reckon that'll do you today.